And I knew that if I made any decision based in fear, it was not going to be an authentic one, and I would definitely regret it. I'm recording this the day after the full moon, and last night I was scrolling through Pinterest just looking for memes about spirituality, because I just wanted to laugh about it and make it lighthearted. And I found one that said, when you don't understand why the universe was mercilessly ripping your life apart, but then it all starts coming together and making sense. And I think that's a perfect meme to start with. We were 3 years into our marriage and everything almost fell apart. My husband almost left me because of my spiritual awakening, and there was just a lot of tension. The whole experience turned my world upside down and his as well. It definitely created conflict, but overall, it helped strengthen our relationship and bring us to a better place than we never could have been before. So, to just kind of give you some background, I grew up in the church. I went to a Christian college, and the college that I went to was where my husband grew up. He grew up in that town. And once he became a Christian, he knew that he wanted to marry one of those Liberty girls because they were pretty and Christian. I think what made the spiritual awakening so difficult for him is because he had in his mind that this Christian girl is going to give him what he wants, a solid foundation with God, a solid marriage that will last the test of time because of what Christians believe about long-term marriage. When I had my spiritual awakening, I flipped everything over. I wanted to know the absolute truth of what I had been told to believe my whole life. For him, that was really confusing and very unsettling. Now, the universe and God will always be conspiring in your favor for your best, but they will be doing that with tests, with trials, and the universe is going to want to make sure that this is what you want. And when we were experiencing this moment of confusion and frustration with my spiritual awakening, we were both faced with a choice that we had to make, a choice to either stay together or leave because of differences in our beliefs. Neither one of us saw this coming. I was a very strong Christian, but something inside of me always knew that there was more, that there was more to God than what I was told. There was more to God than what was in the Bible. And I wanted to find that out, but I felt limited. But I'll get more into that in a minute. So, in regards to choice, when the universe tests us and gives us choices, we have to decide, are we going to keep going through this hardship, or are we going to decide to take the easy route out, the option that's safer and more comfortable? And sometimes we feel like it might even be the better option. It really doesn't matter. There's not one right way and one wrong way, because God will always lead you to the end result, and that is love and unity with Him. But we were tested with this even from the beginning of our marriage. When we were first dating, we decided that we wanted to get married very soon, and there was a lot of people that were against it, and we had to make a choice. Are we going to listen to what other people tell us that they think is the best option for us, or are we going to listen to what we feel is truly right for us? And then another situation happened where it was about a year into our marriage, and my husband went to rehab, and everyone told me to leave him. And everything in me did not want to do that. Despite the fact that he might never recover, despite the fact that this is going to be a lifelong thing, despite the fact that this is challenging, I just had hope and love. And I knew that if I made any decision based in fear, it was not going to be an authentic one, and I would definitely regret it. So here we are 2-3 years later, faced with another one of these decisions. So a lot of times spiritual awakenings happen when there's something traumatic that happens, whether you get in an accident or parents divorce or something just very significant happens in your life. And I didn't realize it at the time because I saw my parents' marriage falling apart, and just kind of felt like it was the time. I mean, there was nothing that I could do about it or they could do about it. It just had fizzled out at that point. But since we were that good Christian family and my parents had stayed together for 30 years, it completely changed everything about me and made me want to question everything that I grew up believing, everything that I was told to believe. Because in this faith that I was told to believe in, you don't leave your spouse. You don't do things that would compromise your marriage. And so I wanted to find answers for myself. I wanted to express my anger towards my parents, because there was so much that was repressed when I was a child. There was so much that I couldn't talk about, that I couldn't do, that I couldn't look into or entertain because of this framework of being a Christian. And so as a result, I decided to do everything that I was told never to do. And they weren't like dangerous or inherently evil things. It was just like meditating and looking into New Age and what different religions believed, and is the Bible really inherently true, and watching Harry Potter, things like that. And I started to listen to people that talked more about spirituality and the truth about it, the science behind spirituality. And it really opened up my eyes to what I was wanting all these years. It's interesting looking back. I think it was like either the winter or the summer before my spiritual awakening, I was just bawling my eyes out, so confused, because I felt like I was praying to nothing. For all of these years, I felt like I had such a deep, connected relationship to God, but God felt so distant to me, so far away from what I had always known God to be in my life. And I think that God put that distance between me and that access so that I could press into it, so that I could dive deeper. Like everything that I had grown up believing and knowing is true, I'm not quite sure about anymore. But by the people that were surrounding me, they just encouraged me to read my Bible and pray, and everything will be okay. And so I did that, and I felt better about it, and I moved on. And then when my parents separated, I decided to start meditating. My mom had already started meditating, and she found profound healing in that. So when I started to meditate, I faced all the demons that I had. And one of them was anger towards my dad. The anger towards my mom didn't come until later. But immediately I felt a release after I screamed out loud in my meditation. And I just completely unhinged myself to release all of this tension that I'd been building up over years and years. And then I started to gain better understandings of why we do the things we do, how we have an ego, how our spirits are eternal and the observer of our thoughts. Not our thoughts are not actually who we are, and that the ego is just there to protect us. Things like this. I was just diving into all of it constantly. And there was a time where I really resonated with what someone was talking about in regards to different dimensions of time and a spirituality space. And when I brought that up to my husband, that was something that he was just like, I don't know, Rachel. I think you really need to think about this before you decide that this is something that you want to believe in. To me, it was true. To me, it felt right. I just kept pressing into what this truth is. Who am I? How do I relate in the world? What is the universe? Who is God? And at that point, I really wanted to rediscover who God was to me. And it wasn't until the last year. So it took me about 3 years to gain a more clear understanding of who God was to me in a way where I felt comfortable talking about God in a way that felt true and genuine to me. I'll never forget the first time that I questioned the truth about the Bible. I questioned its inerrancy. I felt like such a heretic. I felt like I was doing something very wrong because all my life I had been made to believe that this book, this Bible, is God's words breathed onto paper through men. And this is what we need to listen to and to follow. But when I changed my perspective about it and started to think about it as a story that people were telling instead of the absolute truth, I was able to look at it from an objective perspective and see, is this true to me? Does this really resonate? And there's a lot in the Bible that resonates with me so much. But there's some parts that I believe have some errors to them. And I'll just leave it at that. When I got to that place of reevaluating what I had always believed, I felt this peace come over me that was never there. This joy, this unexplained fulfillment inside of me, realizing that, wow, I can rest now. There was just this heavy weight of needing to believe these truths and to study them and to figure out how they apply in my life. And it was such a heavy weight to bear. And when I shed that, man, there's no other feeling that can compare to that. So when I experienced that feeling of freedom, I wanted to tell the whole world about it. I wanted to start creating a YouTube channel right then and there. But I knew that there was still a lot in me that needed to be upheaved and shed and healed. Because even when we go through a spiritual awakening and we want to share it with the world, it's still fresh and raw, and it needs time for the wounds that have been opened up to close back together so that you can come from a place of wholeness and authenticity that brings a message that is truly beneficial. So even though I was in this place of clarity and freedom and love and joy and peace, there was a lot of confusion in my relationship. There was a lot of discomfort and frustration, and I don't know if I said confusion already, but so much confusion. And some days I just wanted to crawl in a hole and go away because it was so painful to watch my husband see the person that I was fall away. To still communicate to him that me, who I am, is still here. My soul, the one that fell in love with you, is still here. And the one that loves God and communicates with God every day is still here. My faith in the unknown, in the non-physical, the God that created the universe, that relationship is still there. It still exists. But I would tell him this, there was a lot that I need to do, that I need to shed, and it's going to be uncomfortable for both of us. We had so many conversations about things like this, And a lot of it was confusing and a lot of it was uncomfortable because change is uncomfortable. There was like one last conversation that we had where I didn't know how it was going to work out. And I was just like, are we incompatible? That question really broke both of us down. And my husband came to a place of complete defeat almost. Like, if I'm going to lose you, then that's it. There's no going back and forth. And for me, even just slightly thinking about it scared me to death because I knew deep down inside that he was the person that I had been looking for my whole life. I'm so lucky to have found the love of my life. I believe that people, our souls, decide before we come to this earth who our parents are going to be, who our siblings are going to be, what situations we're going to grow up in, who our partners in relationships are going to be. He's somebody that I feel like is a soul that me and him have known each other in thousands of lifetimes. And every time we find each other again, and it felt like forever to find him. But when I did, that's why we wanted to get married so soon, was because we just knew. So I'm not saying my story is going to be similar for you or it's going to be how it should be. I don't know what you're going through, but everyone's story is based on, at least what I believe, is that we decide what partner we're going to have, and if we're going to have multiple partners or if we're just going to have one. But I genuinely feel like the desires that you have are placed in your heart to guide you to the right person, because I had this strong desire to find my husband, and it was because it was this guiding light bringing me towards him. It was a guiding light that brought me to my school that I went to so that I could find him in the college that I went to. And it was a guiding light that led me to work in the same restaurant that he worked in. All the pieces fell into place by this trust and this intuitive sense. So who knows, maybe you will have somebody that you're married to for 30 years, like my mom, and then you find the love of your life. Or you don't really date anyone and you find the love of your life. Or you have multiple partners and you find love through each one of them in different ways. But I tell my story to hopefully encourage you in alignment with your desires. So, what happened? After we got to that place of fear that we would lose each other, we couldn't, like, I couldn't. It would be such a regretful and lonely existence without him. So, love became the foundation for healing. I knew that I loved him, and for love's sake, we stayed together, and through love, strengthened each other. As hard as it was, as difficult as it was, we made love the foundation. And when you make love the foundation, other things fall into place in ways that you can't even conjure up in your mind yourself. And I think at that moment, we had a realization that our love was deeper than external circumstances, which allowed us to fall deeper in love with each other. I think when you have this fear of losing one another, you then have a greater appreciation for each other afterwards. So there's three things that this experience taught me. And one was about love. It taught me what unconditional love is versus conditional love. There were so many opportunities that tested our conditional love for one another. And every time, unconditional love prevailed. It's this contrast of darkness and light. And when we're in a dark room and someone turns on the light and we can see everything in the room, it brings so much more appreciation for the light rather than if the light was always on. What it taught me about relationships is navigating differences and staying connected. Even though we were in a place of believing different things, we still could love each other through those things. We still could find a place of accepting each other fully. And that's what I love so much about my husband is no matter what I'm going through, he has seen me at my darkest times and he loves me through it all. And that is love. When someone can love you through your darkest moments and stay right by your side, that is unconditional love. And what it taught me about myself is embracing my spiritual journey without fear or guilt. This was really important and really huge because growing up, I felt like guilt and fear ran my life. And stepping into a relationship where someone holds space for you to be and do who you are, there's just no greater love than that. And I greatly appreciated that, for the ability to just be myself and discover this new part of me without fear or guilt. It wasn't just because he held space for me. It's because I stood strong in who I was becoming. I stood strong in the knowledge that this was a choice I was making and this is who I'm becoming. And I don't know what it looks like, but I need you to accept it or not accept it. But I'm going to do it either way because this is authentic to me. This is who I am. Looking back at our story, near losses have always resulted to deeper love and understanding. So if you're going through something super challenging with your spouse, your partner, a relationship, just know that whatever you're going through, you're going to end up better for it. Just trust the process, trust your intuition, and know that you are guided by God, your spirit guides, your higher self, and there's no need to fear what's happening. Just step into the confidence knowing that this change that's happening is for my best, because it always is. Have certainty, because when you step into certainty, you become a whole person, even if you're changing, even if you're shedding your old self. You are still whole and connected when you have this certainty about you. When you're uncertain, when you have doubts and fears, that can open you up to negative forces and things that would cause you more pain as a result. It doesn't always look perfect, and if it does, I would question that significantly, because the most beautiful things come from the mud, just like a lotus flower. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And I look forward to hearing from you all in the comments. I hope you have a blessed day and much love.